We'll just send
Okay.
it down to them.
Okay, so I'm in charge of Days for Girls here on SU's campus. We have our own chapter. How many of you guys have heard of Days for Girls? I mean, aside from going on this trip and you knew what it was.
Oh, good.
Okay.
There's a few.
Okay, so Days for Girls is a nonprofit international organization, and there's lots of chapters throughout the United States especially, but around the world too. And we focus on making reusable feminine hygiene kits. And they're specifically aimed and made for women and girls in third world or developing countries because they don't have access to the products that they need. And so it keeps them from participating in their communities and attending school. So the name Days for Girls comes from that. So it allows girls to stay in school longer. And so like what I always compare to is like if you had to miss a week of school every month, how long would you have stayed in school? Like I'm assuming most of us wouldn't even be in college at that point. So that's what Days for Girls does. So I'll just kind of show you the actual kits, and then he's gonna he's gonna show you like how to educate the women and girls that you're gonna be helping, so you can show them the kits and educate them. So that's another component of Days for Girls is education. Because a lot of them don't know what's going on with their bodies. And also some of the education does go into kind of protecting themselves and keeping them out of sex trafficking and different things like that, because those places are very impoverished, and that seems like a logical way to get an income, even, which is really, really sad. So in the kits, so they get a nice bag, and then within them they have these shields. And so it's like the same thing pretty much as the disposable pads we use in the United States, except they're just made out of cotton, and then inside there's a white material that's water resistant. So then they can just put this around their underwear, and then they can wear it when they're on their periods. And then inside they put fleece liners, and so they can put like 2 or 3 in there depending on how heavy their flow is. So within the kits they're going to get a total of 8 liners, so there's 3 already in the shields, and then there's 5 here. And then it includes a washcloth, which is with a bar of soap. And lots of the soaps have been wrapped in the washcloth just to kind of protect them from breaking. So if you can't find, if it's not like easily visible in the kit, it's probably in the washcloth. And then they get a little card, and this is part of the education component more, but it explains how to use their kit, and so washing it and using it. And then on the back they have a little cycle chart so that they can keep track of their cycle, I guess. And then there's another Ziploc inside the kit just to help them so they can wash their kit. So the idea is that when they're on their period they can use these, and then when they're dirty they can just wash them out with the soap and put it using the bag, and then they can line dry them, and then they can be used again. So that's kind of the basic of the kit, but we'll watch a little video, and it kind of shows more globally, like on a big picture scale, aside from the kit, what Days for Girls is. And then I'll talk just a little bit about what we do here on campus in our chapter. So, does anyone have questions about the kit or the organization? No? Okay.
Just want to play this. I don't know. I didn't test the sound.
Oh yeah, I didn't either, so hopefully it...
I don't hear things.
Mi nombre es Leila,
Yeah, it's working.
tengo 18 años. Yo soy cachuquel, somos de Guatemala. Mi primera experiencia acerca de la menstruación fue a los 13 años. Lo primero que se me vino a la mente fue susto, no sabía qué era, y yo pensaba de que mi tía o mi mamá estaban enfermas, siempre lo tenían en secreto. Yo aprendí con las charlas de Días para las Mujeres de que nosotras no estamos enfermas cuando nos viene nuestro periodo. Eso es algo sano. El kit de Días para las Mujeres es muy bonito porque es algo que nosotros podemos lavar. Nosotras sabemos cómo lo cuidamos, es más higiénico, y que ya no nos tenemos que preocupar por la basura que sacamos, y de esa forma podemos cuidar el medio ambiente. Mi sueño es de que pueda terminar de estudiar y que pueda ayudar a mi mamá y en un futuro pueda tener una empresa. Mi materia favorita en la escuela son las matemáticas. Entonces decidí estudiar la contabilidad para tener un negocio y sobresalir porque a mí me gusta. Yo deseo que todas las niñas de Guatemala puedan estudiar, jugar y que en un futuro ellas tengan una mejor vida. Me siento muy orgullosa siendo mujer porque soy fuerte y puedo sobresalir y salir adelante.
That's just a video. There's other videos if you're interested on the website. They have some like, kind of episode ones that are really awesome. And then you can also just look up more information on the Days for Girls website. So here at SUU, what we do is we meet this semester anyways. Who knows about next semester? We'll still meet every week, but so we meet this semester. We've met every Tuesday and just for an hour or two. And what we do is we focus on making the different components of the kits. This semester we've done a lot of just cutting. And so we have these templates and then so then we're just cutting out the fabric like this. And then like one night we had a huge assembly line and we put these kits together. Or you know, we can sew bags or like just put these strings in. So all the components of the kit. I mean, aside from like making the Ziplocs, you know, but we do here at SUU so that our goal is to make completed kits that are ready to be sent out around the world.
You guys make all of them?
Yeah, like
Oh, I didn't know
everything.
that.
I
That's
mean,
so cool.
Yeah, so I mean, we have just like rolls of fabric.
Uh-huh.
So all of this will get cut, and then there's a couple other things. So you make the liners and you'll make the shields, and then you just make sure you have washcloths and stuff and
That's
sew
awesome.
donations, and then you can put the kits together.
That's
So, anyways, does anybody have questions so far, or I'll turn it over to Jack? No.
Hi. So, I love Days for Girls. It was my favorite part of the Dominican Republic trip, and it was my favorite part about the Nepal trip. It's like, I love it. I think it's super cool, and it's really important. While we were in Nepal doing these kits, they actually came out with a thing in the newspaper about how important reusable menstrual kits were, which is cool. So, my goal is to kind of help you feel like you know, at least that you're able to present these, because it's more than just giving out the kits, it's the education that comes behind them. And we don't want to be giving these out without la charla, like the lesson behind it, just because these are so valuable. People will sell them if they can just get like them in mass amounts, and so it's really important that like you're giving them to the right audience who need them. So I'm gonna pass this around just so you guys can like familiarize yourselves with what's in them. Pretty self-explanatory, what Brooke said.
And you guys can open all these kits.
Yeah.
Just make sure the components get back in them.
Yeah, and we might have to share for a little bit, but it's nice, if anything, even to like see how they'll be using these, like how they attach to their underwear and things like that. Just so that you know what it is that you'll be doing. Does anyone speak Spanish here? That's okay.
I think we've got 2 at Dixie, and then 1 girl that can't come today
Okay.
that speaks Spanish. So I think we've got 3 or 4 in total.
Okay, 4.
We've got 4. Okay.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Mainly just because language barriers are a thing. These are in Spanish. These are the lesson things.
But I will add, I have a version of the English
Yes.
that I can get so you guys can read it in English and kind of understand.
In fact, oh wait, just kidding. The first page is in English, but
Yeah, I thought that too when I looked at it, and then I was like, wait.
yeah.
To understand the rest.
It's really self-explanatory, honestly, like the lesson itself. But I do suggest, try to see if you can have like a mom there, or at least a woman who's been experiencing menstruation that like can help kind of cross not only the language barrier but the cultural barrier as well. I think it's really nice. The best sessions that we had were the ones where like we had someone there who was like someone's mom, who was like giving her own perspective as well. So number one, try for that. And number two, kind of be sure to adjust your adjust the lesson to your audience. I'm going to treat a group of 14-year-olds way different than I'm treating a group of 17-year-olds. And just know, kind of just, I don't know your audience and how to approach it is what you're talking about. There's also online, if you're going to be doing Days for Girls teaching, then you have to be certified. Have we talked about that at all?
No, but do you want me to add?
I mean, it's pretty easy. All it is if you're going to be doing Days for Girls, which I recommend you do.
They all are, so everybody
Yeah.
has.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
So there's like an online certification that you do for it. A bunch of videos, some quizzes, a lot of stuff you already know. But it's definitely, there's like a whole part on it that's like about the teaching of it. So I don't want to get too into like the teaching of it when that'll be part of the lesson. So I'm not worried about that. Mainly what I want to show you is like how these presentations usually go, and it's kind of fun. So everything in here is in Spanish, but this says women menstruate 3,000 days in their lives. Kind of a lot of like she said in the video, a lot of the girls that you'll be talking to haven't had proper education on like their menstrual cycle, and so this first part is really just like getting them exposed to what they can be expecting. And this is about puberty, when puberty affects people. What are the changes that we can expect to see during puberty? Things like that. This kind of shows your childbearing years. Again, know your audience of like how in depth you're going to be going into things. Something that's really important is like the actual anatomy of stuff. Some of them will know everything, some of them won't know anything. So it's really good to cover this base. I always just like outline the anatomy to them and just be like, this is what your body is, and this is why it's so cool. A main theme that I usually drive home is that your body is super cool. Bodies are super cool, and they're yours.
And can I add one thing?
Yeah.
So in a lot of cultures, they think that when they have their periods that it's something like that was wrong, or like especially in like Indian, Nepal area, there's communities where they have to leave their community for a whole entire week when they're on their period. So there's like 13-year-old girls that are sitting in captions by themselves. And that's like this video right here kind of talks about that. But it's an important thing that they think that they've done something wrong, which is definitely not true. It's biologically really cool, so, and very important.
Right, totally. In Nepal, when we were doing this, they have huts that they would send women who were menstruating into that were like super dirty, and like, I don't know, it just kind of highlights a general misunderstanding of a lot of things. So, driving home how cool this is and how awesome it is their bodies do this, I don't know, it's really valuable. So, underlying anatomy, they have like Spanish names for stuff. So if you don't feel like you're equipped to do much, you at least have like. The nice thing with Spanish is it reads how you say it how you read it. So you shouldn't have too big of a problem like outlining stuff. This is another really important one. This another general misunderstanding is like the monthly process of stuff, but kind of just outline when they can be expecting their period every month. Saying that it's okay if it varies, but kind of just saying like in general this is what you can expect, and also showing the days where they're most fertile. Kind of just general education on that, but again, it kind of teaching the specifics about these things really demystifies a lot of the taboo behind it. So going into you talk about menstruation on this one. And phase 2, you basically, what I usually do is I'll literally just outline like the travel of the egg through the fallopian tubes, and it's like in like a fun way. As fun as you can make it. And talking about how, just kind of how an overall period works and what's happening, I think is really important. Eventually we'll get to, this is outlining every phase. Eventually it gets to, what days again? This is a little thing that's inside of their kits. It's like a little day tracker for the whole year. So showing them how they can use that, understand their cycles a little bit better is really cool. And then you can start to get into like the actual hygiene kits. So I love this stuff. It's so fun, and people are so appreciative of it. It's super, it's cool. So what I usually do these not have the underwear in them?
No, sorry.
No, you're good.
So
Ours, I thought they did.
So what we were doing is we're just going to give you an assortment so that the women and girls can come and say what size they need instead of like
That's
handing out a
probably
small
smart.
to like
Yeah.
women that have had more kids.
Okay.
Probably maybe aren't as small. So
Okay.
This one has it in it.
Oh, it does.
I know that some of them do. I do agree that it's like,
kind of because
Yeah,
you're
you-
like handing out kids and you're like that.
The
Probably
Yeah, I have no
ones-
idea if this
So the
will
ones
take
you took to Nepal, did they have underwear in them?
They did,
Okay,
yeah.
that's what I have in my office.
cool. Yeah, we took those ones and then we got our bag got lost.
Oh,
then-
and that's why they came back.
That's what they came out.
Okay, that makes sense.
So do we know how the bags in Dixie are? Do they include those or
I
not?
would assume that they have.
Yeah.
Them.
I'm
Whether
pretty sure-
whether or not they do
That's
or not.
like
We took theirs last year and they all had underwear in them, so they all should.
Yeah.
yeah. So that was just something that we were doing here because logistically it was a little bit of a hassle, and then it'll allow the women and girls to choose what size that they need. So.
So what I usually do at this point, after we've like talked about everything, is I will actually like, I'll give everyone a kit, and then we'll do this whole thing together, where we'll like practice like putting these in, and then we'll like practice like replacing the pad, and then I'll even like, there's bars of soap in these, and like the rags, I'll like show them the whole process to it. So it's like, you put it in depending how much flow you have, take it out, you wash everything, you put it in this bag until you can clean them later. And I have everyone do that just so they've done it at least once and they can kind of see the overall process.
That's always nice too for when we'll partner you guys up, which if we have 4 days and 4 students that speak Spanish, we could partner people up with the Spanish speaker. So one person could speak and the other person could demonstrate. That's what we did at least when I was in the DR, and I think that works really well. And you can probably attest to this, usually wait in the DR until you have a big group of girls and then you do the presentation.
So yeah, usually how you'll be, what your days will consist of is you'll wake up in the morning, eat breakfast. The place you're staying in is like the cutest place in the world. I love it. It's so fun.
It's awesome.
So you'll go in like the little town that you're in. It's fun. But you wake up in the morning, get in the bus, travel for like 2 hours, and you'll go to like a small little town, and you'll post up there for the day. And like you have like triage. There's Days for Girls people going on. Some people do home visits.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
That was the one. Sorry, I forgot to tell you.
That was a
Home
cool
visits.
part of it too. Is
That's
like you go
probably
to
the
people's
coolest
homes.
part.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
cool. I helped bandage like a 102-year-old woman, which was fun. So there's a lot of components going on, and you usually rotate. And you might be doing construction. So that's
Yes,
something,
we're doing construction too.
which is also fun. So since the people that will be doing Days for Girls for that day, usually it's like you'll say we're gonna get everyone together in 10 minutes in this room, and then you kind of just treat them as like waves of people. Sometimes they'll be big, sometimes they won't be. But then having enough kids to hand out so they can practice is important. Anyone have any questions so far?
Yeah,
Pretty
yeah,
easy.
how many sessions do you do in a day?
It depends. I did Days for Girls almost the whole time. And there was, in one of the places we did like, I don't know, like 8 sessions
Oh my
with a
gosh.
ton of people, with like 10 girls.
Is that in the DR?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, no, there was a ton.
Oh my gosh.
But then there was
Didn't
one
know
where we
that.
did like probably 4 the whole day, like 4 we gave out like 5 kits the whole day.
That was kind of how our time was when we were down there. I think
Yeah.
there was one day where we had a group of probably like 15. The rest of the days it was like 4 or 5 girls. So
Right.
it really depends.
Yeah, totally depends. And so it's just whoever needs them. What's important is that you don't give them out just willy-nilly and that you don't give them out to everybody. They are, Days for Girls is specifically for girls, teenage girls and girls who had just had birth. A lot of people will be like, well, I want some too, but kind of focusing on what the mission is and like who is really in need of the kids and that we don't have like an infinite amount of them.
It's okay to say no. And there were boys that were asking for it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
You don't want to give them to them because
You'll
they're
give-
trying to sell them.
exactly.
So
So knowing who, this is kind of instructions for it. How to wash your hands. Kind of fun. Eventually, it'll start talking about how to build a tippy tap. Is what that says.
is that video still in the training that they have to do? Did they take it out? Because the one I did last year, there was like
How
a
to
whole.
build a
Mhm.
nice.
Yeah, it was really cool actually.
It's kind of
I
fun.
think so.
I think it's still on there.
Yeah, I can't imagine they would have taken that out.
Yeah.
How to build,
It's like how to build like a washing station. They call it a tippy tap. It's kind of fun. I never taught that, but there wasn't really a use for it.
Yeah.
There's also a part where they talk about the male reproductive system. Again, I think this is audience geared, but kind of lessons on general anatomy are really important. And then there's also el acto sexual, the sexual act. That's what that says. Kind of just outline what sex is, depending on the audience as well. Like, it's one thing if you're talking to girls, they're super young, again. But everything in here is like for a purpose. So, kind of educating on how people get pregnant, especially because like the birth rate in developing countries, like the underage birth rate, is super, super high. So, that's important. Then there's this, I love this section. It's about like, it's the trap of persons, modern day slavery. And it's about like, this whole part is about like teaching self-defense, which I think is awesome. I usually will, they have like personal defense, keeping yourself safe. Where are you strong and where are you like weak or able to be attacked? I always say, like I always go, oh, your elbows are the strongest part of your body. Use them if you ever need to. Usually around this part I'll be like, it is so important to know that your bodies are yours. And they are yours and not anyone else's. And no, you don't owe anyone anything. And so learning how to protect yourself in situations that could be dangerous is super important. I also talk about like, staying in groups, especially in public places and things like that, is really important. But kind of just like an overall note on how to protect yourself. And this is just a summary slide. So to summarize, you're gonna learn all this when you do the actual lessons.
And I'll send a link to Casey that she can forward to all of you.
Yeah, perfect. But the things, like if you're gonna take away anything, know that if you can get someone who speaks fluent Spanish there, like a mom or something to help teach the process, that the best ones are what happens. Know who you're supposed to be giving these out to, and I always walk them through the process of actually replacing these things. So, other than that.
Even though it might be uncomfortable, it really makes a huge difference. As you do the training, I remember reading one story about a girl who used cow dung because they had nothing else to use to stop the flow from her period. And that was like, oh my gosh, that's horrible that people have to go through something like that. And there was another girl that used hot ash. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Oh, and she said she had, and you'll read the story, she ended up getting like a really bad infection, and oh, it's just so sad. So realize that these kits, it may be a little uncomfortable, the presentation you're giving, but you are making a huge difference in these girls' lives. So remember that. Everything you do while you're there will make a difference, but
Totally.
those are really important to remember.
Especially because UTIs are a thing. And, with people don't have adequate care, they're like life-threatening.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
Yeah.
this stuff is super, 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 super important. So teaching it well is important. And it's honestly like, it seems weird, especially like, I don't know, for guys, they like, the guys that I was with were like really
Uh-huh.
hesitant about it, but there's no need to be. It's like, just, it's education. So, any questions, comments, concerns, jokes?
And we'll pair you up, so it'll be two of you, so you could like practice
Yeah.
the day before you have clinic to say who's gonna do what and stuff, and then, you know, like you said, you could find someone there, a mom to help you, you know, they're so friendly there, they love to be involved in anything that you're doing, so that
And
will
that
definitely be
will
good.
help, like, just with like a language cultural barrier.
Mhm.
Just because like, even if you speak Spanish, you might not know in that specific community what's an appropriate way to say something, or, you know, it might be a little bit different than what's said in the thing, and that's okay. And to have that other person there that does have that cultural aspect that they can add is really awesome.
Yeah, that's why, I mean, yeah, it's not just language, it's cultural. So
Mhm.
knowing what is okay to say and what to emphasize, I think.
And maybe, I mean, and they probably know the things that they aren't educated about too, so that they can like say, oh, this is really important, let's spend a little bit more time here, or things like that. So I'll send her a link. It takes probably an hour, a little bit more.
Mhm.
But as far as like some of the quizzes and stuff, most of you are probably educated enough that you can pass them without doing it. I'm not advocating for that, but just, you know, if you just need to get the certificate, and then like if you're waiting in an airport, you could finish it sometime else. So there, at the end of it, when you complete the training, there is a place, you'll get a certificate that needs to be printed out so that you have it in the DR with you. Just in case, like if somebody comes up to you and says, are you guys actually with Days for Girls? Why are you giving out these kits? Things like that. I mean, it's pretty unlikely that that's going to happen, but you want to be able to be representing the organization with, well, and then with, you know, with the right to be doing that, so.
Yeah, I would prefer that everybody completes this training before they're sitting in the airport, so that you can just send me their certificate, I'll print them out and then give them to law. So, I know finals week is coming and stuff, so, you know, if I get all of them from everybody on like Thursday night, that's fine. If you just find a time to just sit and do them. And like she said, the quizzes are very easy. You
There's,
can,
if you know anything. But-
you'll know them, you'll know it. So, I mean, you can
Yeah.
flip through it and stuff, and since they've already gave you this training, you guys should be okay, but just make sure we get the certificates before we get in the DR. If you want to take the responsibility of printing it out and bringing it with you, great. I'd just rather have them before, just make it easier.
And like last resort, if you aren't able to get it done, if you have some digital version of it.
Yeah, oh yeah.
I mean, that's a
That works
option,
too.
but I think paper version would be great, and then you can have that record, but if, you know, if you really just have like 8 million finals next week and they're all on like Thursday and Friday, like
Yeah,
maybe,
we understand.
yeah.
When are you guys leaving?
Friday.
Friday?
Yeah, next Friday, the 13th.
Cool.
Right?
Cutting it close. That's good.
What?
In a week.
Yeah. Yeah.
And is there finals still on that day?
I don't know, does
Yeah.
anyone have
Yeah,
finals that
I
day?
have a
Oh,
final on
gosh.
Friday.
Woo.
I actually, that was, we left on Friday when I went too.
Yeah, we
because
usually leave that Friday.
Yeah, because I remember taking a final and then immediately driving to the airport.
Yep.
And I didn't even pack, like, I had to like, buy my mom pack my bag. Funny. And then, yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, so I mean, if you can go do the training today because you're like, oh, I have a little bit of free time before finals start next week, that would be a perfect time to do it. Just try not to wait, so.
Yeah. But it's super cool. I'm like jealous that you guys are going. I had such a good time. Like it was so fun. Such a good time.
Can I just make one comment here? As I'm listening to this and, you know, being a clinician, I think really diving into this and learning how to teach the lay public about the reproductive system, and you're all wanting to go into med school or PA school or PT school or other things, it helps you really learn how to teach lay people about scientific things. And I didn't have that experience, and so I get out of school and start teaching people about the gluteus maximus, or, you know, this insertion, that insertion. It took me a while to really understand how to communicate to people. And if you do this, I think you'll learn how to communicate kind of anything, whether or not you go into neurology or, you know, nursing or whatever it is. it's just a great opportunity to kind of practice and talk about how to communicate. It's also some things you can talk about in your interviews as you get interviews for med school or other applications.
Yeah, I mean, as healthcare providers, this is something you're gonna have to talk to patients about and stuff, so it's a good learning experience.
Well, and like this is healthcare. This is
Yeah,
it's
it
one
is.
thing just to like be able just to know stuff, but if you can't communicate and teach the general public, then there's no point. Because it's about that's what healthcare is. It's not just it's preventative. This is a large part of it. So.
Anybody questions? Have questions? Okay. Just one packing tip that I was thinking of. So with the kids, if you're good at getting all the air out of the Ziploc, you can seal them up as you throw like 3 kits on top of your bag before it goes overweight or something. But if not, like for room and things, you can also just like leave it open just a little bit, and then you can switch. And then like if you have to compact it, then you don't have to worry about it because it'll just do it on its own. I wouldn't recommend like unzipping the whole thing just so you don't lose things, but you can unzip a little bit and then you can kind of squish the air out of it. And they're decently small and you can see that they're not all that heavy, so you can definitely throw a few in on top of the suitcase